Wow, wow, wow. Well, I'm doing this at late at night because I don't have no audience to put me off, and that way I can just focus on getting things through. First things first, I want to apologise to lots of people for missing calls. This last week has been mental chicken oriental, mental chicken oriental, like proper mental. Like, I'm going to go through a bit of it in a minute, but ultimately, I've had to keep my phone away from me because it keeps ringing, and I want to keep answering it, but I've got too much paperwork to do to not do it because I'm in court every day next week. Every day next week, another hearing, in person hearing in various places of England. So that's that. But look, I've just been watching something, right, and it's about COVID-19, right? So COVID, there's new vaccines like this. They look at this, right? They're doing reverse transcribed that alters the DNA of like the sperm and an egg. Alters the DNA. So basically, what they're doing, right? This whole reset thing. They're changing how humans are. They're going to change how our genetics. They're changing the entire human genome, which means. So obviously we had like before, where it was like we were monkeys or apes or whatever they say we evolved. We evolved probably through people giving us medication. Probably what it was. I don't know. Just a thought there. But that's just a random thing. Tories, right? I bet if you voted for Tories, I bet you feel a bit stupid now. There's another conspiracy theory going around. This one is Robin Williams, apparently. Robin Williams is still alive. Did you know that? Did you know? Robin Williams is still alive. They're saying that he's now, what do you call it? Bill Gates' missus. Bill Gates' missus is Robin Williams. And they've shown photos and they look quite similar. And their genetics and things are exactly the same as well. So there's some element of truth in that, maybe. Maybe we'll see. Because I'm of the theory that maybe things aren't always as that they have seemed. And I've gone to school and learned what they've told us to learn, not what maybe it's meant to be. Who knows? Don't Pay UK, that's taken off really well. That's doing really good. 1st of October, don't pay your bills. Well, no, don't pay your bills. Hold some back, put it into the bank. So when you need to pay it, you have to pay it. But just show the impact of it. But I've also seen with people doing that, right? People doing the bills thing. Now, I'm not saying about my bills because I'm not being funny. I've got a really good deal. But yeah, petrol. I've been in petrol shake the other day. And then someone walks in and they said, I'm not paying you for the full amount. And they paid like 10 quid, it's like 15 quid or whatever it was. They paid like 20 quid short or 15 quid short. And then he's like, yeah, take my details. You can get the police to come out and see me. Blah, 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 blah. So it's not theft, that's what I was saying. I was like, well, it is sort of, isn't it? It is sort of theft, to be honest. So that's that. But then that got me thinking as well. I've been this week, I've been all over the place. Like Liverpool, everywhere. Portsmouth, all over the shop. And next week I'm going all over the shop as well, all over England again. And the cost, man, I don't use petrol. There's no petrol in the trains. It's electric, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, I'm not too sure how trains work. But they've doubled in price. 250 quid. 255 quid to get to Liverpool. 255 quid. You can get to Trinidad and you can get to Tunisia for like 70 quid. I don't get it. And the trains weren't even running properly, and they were fucking hot. So yeah, that done my head in a little bit. That's so I need to figure out a way of getting around train things because they've messed that up big time for me. That's it. Melinda Gates. Robin Williams is a Melinda Gates. So they say. Maybe you've known about that for a little while, but I've not known about it at all. And I learned about it. I know about it tonight, actually, to be honest with you. Someone said something to me about it. I was like, oh, really? No. So I looked at some photos and I was like, oh, maybe it is. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. So that's that. Okay, that's right. what I'm thinking, right? So there's been, obviously I do what I do, and I'm gonna share some deep thoughts, right? We've all got situations. If you're separated, if you're separated and you've got like you've got an ex-partner, male, take gender out of it, yeah. Imagine you're non-residing, so you're the non-residing parent, and if you're the residing parent and this relates to you, I do apologise, but I think, how can you put this? When you go through family courts, you're at conflict. We go to court, and we, as men, and I'm talking about myself personally, I've accepted court orders based on knowing, the judges knowing that the other party is not ever going to comply or be complicit or supportive of the court order. But you take the court order because it gives you the skeleton, and you think to yourself, well, do you know what? I can work on that, we can build on that, and we can grow from that. Yeah. But then you find yourself going back into court again because there's been a life event or something's happened that's stopped contact from going the way it should normally be going. And normally it's the residing parent that obviously stops that. In many cases, it's the mum. In some cases, it's been the dad. It's just from personal experience and personal cases. But you find yourself going back to court again. So you go back to court, you've got to do the whole calf casting again, you've got to do all the whole shit again, the whole bollocks. And it's like, okay, so you're doing it all again. You get a slightly different result. And I've always had the same results. Whenever I've gone to court, I've always had the same result every time. And it's always been fair towards me. I think it's always been what I've wanted, and I've always got what I've asked for. Even on my first ever case, when Lila calls me up that night before and says, "Oh, I want to live with Mummy." I was like, gutted, but yeah, okay. So I went to court the next day, and I just said, "This is what I want." They gave it to me. Shouldn't have done it. I don't live in regret because I just don't. But you know, if there's another dimension out there, if there is another dimension with what happened if I walked down the road of not listening to my daughter, would it be that I would then be having being the residing parent, right, and then not having the same relationship that I've got with her now in this world? Who knows? But it wouldn't have been the same outcome. So because I wouldn't have listened to what she wanted, and she knows, and even till today, she knows that even if I haven't got it, she needs it. I'll give it to her. And I think that needs to probably stop a little bit because we're moving into a world where life's getting a lot harder. And I think she gets it. But I think she's used to being like a little princess, I suppose. That's, again, my fault. But then if I've got it, she can have it, and she gets it. I think she gets it. But so yeah, I digress. So basically, right. So you go back to court again. You're going back into court, and you go through the whole process again. And again, it transpires. You get the same outcome. Same outcome because you get the same result because it's the same behaviours again. It's the same behaviours that stopped contact, the same behaviours that you're trying to get resistance in court, blah, 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 blah. And that's actually abuse. So you're on the end of that and you're not even together anymore and you're still being abused. And you're still being abused through the process because they've stopped contact, they're exaggerating stories about you, blah, blah, blah. And then you go through the process again and again and again. And it's like, it's just a cycle. And I went through stages of saying, look, this is ridiculous. My last case was, I said to Cavcast, I was like, look, no, speak to Lila. If Lila doesn't want to see me, she doesn't have to see me. Whatever Lila wants, we'll do. And Lila said she wanted to see me, but I think she said she wanted to see me rather than 6 weeks on holidays. She wanted to see me 2 weeks because this is before lockdown. This is before lockdown started. And then she was like, she wanted to see me less because she wanted to go out with her friends. And she was young then, and she was much younger, obviously much younger, but she was mature then still. But she knew what she wanted, and I respect that. And I totally respect that. But unfortunately, we never got to implement that because lockdown happened. And that lockdown, as difficult as it was, and I know lots of people have struggled with lockdown, and I know lots of people are in really bad situations with how they've been treated. And how lockdown has been used in their family unit to brainwash and alienate the children from the dads in the situations that I know of. I'm sure there's some where it's happened where the residing parent is the dad, and they've done vice versa and whatnot. And in fact, I know even when they're not the residing parent, I know of cases where the dad is trying to continually alienate the children or say bad things about the mum who is the residing parent, which is just equally as abusive as the what do you call it, the alienation that the children of the fake parent put up with the home, because they're stuck in the middle. So you don't want to be doing that. I mean, you want to be keeping the peace. So showing respect to your ex-partner in adversity when they're just giving you shit, as difficult as it might be, because you want to react and you want to be like, you can't, because you have to show that it's better to be the wiser person and the more taking the moral high ground, and that's key. Now, we've in court this week had a couple of good results, really good results. One of them, we had a pre-prepared. We always sort of have a rundown of scenarios of what could happen, and we come up with a plan and executed that really well. And he ended up with a really good on paper, because he didn't have it on paper, a lives with order for both parents, and one child, both parents. And that's not the first time that's ever happened. It happens a lot. But to do that, you have to be in a really strong relationship with your ex-partner. And when I say strong relationship, if you've got your ex-partner and you look at your relationship now and you're not able to communicate with them without it turning into an argument, that's not a strong relationship. When I say a strong relationship, I mean you can communicate with each other. You can talk to each other and be civil with each other. You can hate each other on the inside, but on the surface, you're showing each other respect, because it's like a working relationship, because that's what you're doing. You're co-parenting. You're working together. You don't like each other, but you have to work together to get the job done. That job being the successful upbringing of your child. However you do it, there's no book. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong thing to do. You can only do what you think is best. Sometimes that can lead to misfortune, and sometimes that can be like the right thing. But then as long as you're there to pick up the pieces, that's all that matters, surely. But then, so yeah, I digress again a little bit. But that makes sense, what I'm saying there, still. So yeah, so you're going through the court process, or continually you're being abused. Now, in some cases, right, you're being abused. But in some cases, on your first case, there's going to be an element, and I don't give a damn what anyone says, no matter what, you might be working with me, or I might be working for you, and you might say to me, yeah, I've done no abuse whatsoever. And people who work with me know that I say this a lot. There's an element of abuse in every single relationship. Every single relationship, there's an element of abuse. And it's about whether it being toxic or whether it being a healthy amount of abuse. And then when I say healthy, that means being dragged around the shops, blah, 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 blah. No one wants to go shopping as a man, but you do it to placate your partner. No one wants to, there's going to be stuff that you don't want to be doing with your children. But you do it because it's your children. There's going to be things you have to miss because you want to do that, but it's your children. And if you do that in place of your child, because you're taking for granted the fact that your child lives with you, and you take that for granted and you want to go and do what you want to do, that child's going to become disengaged with you, or the children are going to become disengaged with you. And they want to be engaged. They want to speak to you. They want to feel listened to, only when they want to talk to you, not when only when it suits them. Let's be honest. Sometimes I know sometimes I speak to Lila and be like, how's this? How's that? And it's one word answers, yes, no, or and then fuck off, stop talking to me. Other times when she wants to talk to me, she'll talk, and she'll talk freely. And I'm not gonna risk that opportunity for having that conversation with her, because I enjoy the conversations, because she's telling me stuff. And then she enjoys talking to me because it's good to talk. And it's obviously something she wants to talk about because she's talking about it. And it's fascinating because you can put yourself in their position still, can't you? Well, I can anyway. I get worried, because you do, but that's what parenting is, isn't it? You're getting worried and stuff and make them, that's what it is. It's certainly not it's certainly not being angry with the children and punishment and dictatorship and all that shit. It's not about that at all. It's about freedom and letting them, not wrapping them up in cotton wool as much as you want to, but letting them do what they want to do and making sure that you're educating them with what the outcomes of whatever they're doing could be. Not that everyone needs a lesson in parenting, but that's just my thoughts on that. But anyway, I'm digressing again. We're going to get to that end point soon. Ultimately, you go through the court. So the first case, you've got a level of you're getting all. The first case is always the worst case because you've got all your allegations thrown out there. Everything comes out, and that's how it should be. You want to get it all out. You don't want to hold nothing back because you don't want nothing coming onto you in months to come or years to come when you go back into court again. Because if you're in court once, the likelihood is you will be going back again. When there's a life event, when something happens, when you want to get married again, or new birth of a new child or something like that, that's when contact will stop again. Ultimately, as I said, you go back into the first time around, both parties will have abused each other. It takes two to argue. It takes two to fuck. It takes two to make love to each other. It takes two to argue. It takes two to make a baby. It takes two to get a divorce. You have a better quality of life if you've got two incomes coming in. You can do more because there's two of you. That's all good. So there's two, right? But when the relationship goes sour and there's no retrieving it because someone's had, I don't know, someone could have had an affair, or she's kicked you in the bollocks, or she's thrown a glass at your head, or you've thrown them out the window, whatever the case might be, there's an argument that's happened and then your relationship is broken. What you tend to do as parents is you try and fix it for the sake of your family, for the sake of making sure that you are doing the right thing, because there's a generation of men out there, I believe, that had shit dads, and I'm one of them. But we didn't want to have children to be shit dads. We wanted the children to say we're nothing like our dads, blah blah blah, and we wanted to be better. But I think there's going to be elements in everyone who has errors and makes mistakes when they're parenting, because there's no book. You're going to try and do what you can do. Anyway, first case, worst case. You get to the end of that. She says you've been abusing her. You end up with a non-molestation order or whatever. She says you've been abusing her, and then you haven't. You can say you've been verbally abusive, whatever it might be. So you get that first case lined out, and this first case. Don't forget, in many instances, this first case, you're going to have gone months without seeing your child, because that's what happens. You're going to go months without seeing your children because they claim that you are a risk to the children, so they don't want you to see the child, so they stop all contact. They get the non-molestation order against you, stopping you from having the contact with the child, making contact with them, so you can't make contact with the child. And then it goes from there. And then they delay everything with the non-molestation. And then when you get into by the end of that court case, sometimes it can be as long as 3 years, and you're getting 3 years of some people 4 or 5 years of nearly no contact, and then you're expected to go in and build a relationship again. I don't believe that. From my own personal experience, I don't believe that. And from when I'm speaking to other people, I believe that blood's thicker than water. You can have not met your child. You can have not met your child ever. So, for example, someone that I know with their child had never met this. A lot of people I know had never met their children before they get to meet them for the first time in a contact centre. And everyone have said the same thing. All of them have said the same thing. As soon as they held the child, they knew that was their child. They knew that was his. Or, you know what I mean? So that's there. And that's the same when you don't have contact with your children. They are young. They don't have a voice. They're doing as they're told. Mentally, though, they're switched on. Mentally, though, they know what's going on. They probably can't articulate it, but they know what's going on. And they can't argue. They're a baby. But then you get that. You get all them years, 13 years, I put money on it, 13 years of or say not 13 years, say from the age of 4 to 13. So 9 years of sort of vaguely understanding what's going on if you've been separated that from that age and you're arguing and conflicting with each other from that age. They pick that shit up, right? And in some cases, that's all they can remember for their whole life. So you might have got married and you might have had the fucking best 4 years of your life ever. And then you get married and then you have a child and you might have another good 2 years. And then you separate. And then all that child remembers is you two at each other's throats. So that's all the child's ever known. But then the child must be like, I love you both because you're my parents. But all you do is argue with each other. That's a head fuck. And I get it because I've gone through it. But as a young person, it's going to fuck them up. Because you can't get on. Yet you both say that you love your children. And you probably both do. And you do. Couples do. But you're not dealing with the shit the right way at all. And I don't care if you're a man or a woman. You have to compromise. Your life is not going to be the same as it was. Someone is going to have to compromise. Generally, it will be the man. You can argue the points and whys and wherefores and whatnot, but that's just how it is at the moment. I believe that's going to change soon. But I know it's going to change soon. Because what we're doing, and this is what I'm going to come on to in a minute, is going to change it because it's a different way of looking at things. It's not a different way of looking at things. We're just going to talk about it and highlight it more. We're going to have the confidence to discuss it in court. And we're going to have the confidence to hold our ground in court. Because what's happening is you go to court, the contact is generally stopped by the woman first of all. The woman will then say that you're the perpetrator. You've done this and that and this and whatever else. And in some instances, men are guilty of it. In some instances, there's a certain type of woman that you can much pinpoint, which is why I can do what I do so well. You can pinpoint what they do next and you can predict it. And it's like reading like an alphabet. Something really will count into 10. You know what they're doing and when they're doing it and why they'll do it and how they'll react. And you just know. That's that type of person. That they're of a different breed. Now, you'll go back to court again, and then they'll muddy your name. They'll say you're the worst person since sliced bread. You're the abuser. You then get labelled with the abuser for that first case. Fine. So you can't change that. You can argue it, and obviously don't get it. But that's if you can, then we do. Great. But ultimately, what they claim that that amount of time that you were abusive for that period in that child's life, whether it be 2 years, 3 years, 7 years, whatever, compared to what happens afterwards and the post-separation abuse that I'm dealing with cases is phenomenal. And then we're getting told as men by the judges that, and rightly so, you can't change how people feel because people are entitled to feel the way they feel because they've got freedom of expression, freedom of that. They're allowed to be angry. We can't change them. We can't change the fact that they're angry because they've got the right to be angry. You may not say they have got the right to be angry. I may not say that they've got the right to be angry, but they've got the right to be angry because that's their feelings. So you have to respect that. So they're going to be angry. Fine. They're going to say you've done X, Y, and Z, and they've interpreted whatever dimension of the world they're living in. That's their reality. And this is what goes a little bit deeper with my spiritual shit, right? Because there's different dimensions that people are talking about, isn't there? You're going into the fifth dimension now and whatnot. And the world is rebirthing itself and it's all this crazy stuff people are talking about. Or is it just me? Either way, that's happening. Or something like that. The world's a crazy place right now. So you go back to court, you're getting told X, Y, and Z. You're getting told you've got to put up with the abuse, basically. And when I say that, it's because you can't change people's feelings. And it'd be wrong for a court to say to a person, You're not allowed to feel that way. Someone's rabbit might die, and that might be the best rabbit friend they've got ever. That rabbit dies, that's going to be the most difficult thing for that person to deal with. For me, I'd be like, it's a rabbit, deal with it. It's not my problem. It's just deal with it. Just move on. It's a rabbit. I'm going to have no connection to it, or I'm not going to feel that way about it. So they've been taught to be hurt, but I can't. If an old version of me might have taken the piss out of them. Now I'm empathetic towards it. But that's what I'm saying. The hurt that people feel, you can't change it. You can't change people's feelings. So a judge can't say to a woman, "You are not allowed to be angry anymore," because they've got the right to be angry. But then if you want to have a relationship with your children, you have to tolerate that anger aimed at you. And by that, I mean they take away your right to be a parent. And by that, I mean you have no say in what school they go to, or they make it difficult for you to have a say in what school they go to, or they make it difficult for you to know what's going on with the doctors. That sort of thing. So you don't feel as a full dad having your parental responsibility. You're a baby, basically you're a glorified babysitter. And what you do with that time, with that limited time that you get, it has to be powerful. It has to be strong. But anyway, that's a different situation, different road I'm walking down. I'm trying to stay on the track because I'm coming up to 30 minutes. So the point is, these people that are angry, and they've got to be allowed to be angry because it's part of the change curve, it's part of the emotional change curve. But they can't stay angry. And you can't be expected to put up with the abuse just because they're angry. Because if the shoe was on the other foot and you were behaving the way that they're treating you, then you were the main carer for the child, then you would have the child taken off you. Because that would be wrong. And as a man, to be under the spotlight for everything when it comes to parenting, because he's apparently not able to parent, because it doesn't fit in with the agenda of society. That's a bit of a head fuck. And I'll tell you why. And I've got more evidence to say why, because something happened to me this week. I was speaking to a social worker, and I'll come on to that in a minute. But ultimately, you can't. If you're in court process, you can't be expected, or it can't be allowed that you are to be abused, and your child and children be abused emotionally and psychologically, because that person can't deal with their anger or frustration properly. They've got every right to be angry and frustrated. Great. Be angry, be frustrated. Do you want to waste your life being angry? Do that. I spent many years being angry. There's no fun in it. There's no pleasure in it. You get nothing positive, in my view, from being angry. You have to let love into your heart and you have to give love. And that's what you have to do. And people will be watching this and they'll be like, oh, you're just a fucking wanker, Jason. You're a dickhead, blah, blah. There'll be people watching this trolling me. There'll be people watching this that hate me. And I'm cool with that. I'm absolutely cool with it. Because you give me positive energy. You drive me forward. You are the reason why I do what I do. Just because I know it pisses you off, because I'm going to keep going forward and I'm going to keep helping people, and I'm going to keep doing it successfully. Unfortunately, this last couple of weeks have been mental, and that's because I've been in court every single day, and paperwork and then the commuting's been a nightmare. So because the commuting's been a nightmare, I've fallen asleep on the train too many times, and then I get home. It's late. It's just been a nightmare. So I'm trying to get paperwork done. That's why I'm trying to stick to this 30 minutes on this. But you need to find a way of approaching this in court. There's ways that I've got to do it, that I help people with, that I help people and express these feelings in the right way, because you've got the right to say it. Yeah. So the social worker said to me this week, I'm going to leave you with this, right? A social worker said to me this week, child B tells parent A that this child loves parent B or respects parent B more than the other parent. You call parents A and B, it's non-emotional. Child tells parent B a lot. So it's good that the child has or feels confident and safe enough to talk to that parent. So they've got somewhere to go. Because parent A doesn't like that parent A then causes conflict for the child and for everyone else around them. If that was a man doing that, let's put it in this way, a man doing that. So imagine a child telling dad that the child loves mum more and tells mum everything. Dad is going to be fucking livid. Dad is going to be fuming. Dad would be walking through walls. And he'd be like, you've been brainwashing my child, blah, blah, blah. That would then cause you not to have contact because there'd be anger and frustration, probably get, arrested and whatnot. And it wouldn't be good for the child anyway. So let's not go down that road. But if a woman does it, if a woman says it, so for example, a child would say to the mum, oh, I think dad's great. I'll tell him more than I'll tell you. He gets it. That's not gonna. She's going to feel upset. But this social worker said to me, and it wasn't about me. It's not about me. It's for someone else's case. You must be able to tell, though. Mum feels awful because the child has said this. Because she's the mum. She's carried the child for 9 months, and no mum's going to want that to be said. No dad's going to want that to be said. But the social worker made a big thing about the fact that it was mum. My viewpoint is quite simple, and my response was quite simple. I don't care. Does that give her the right to abuse the child because she can't control her anger and frustration because the child's been open and honest with her? And maybe she should look in the mirror if the child is saying that, because obviously she's gone wrong somewhere, rather than keep continually brushing it under the carpet and pretending that everything's okay because it doesn't fit with your agenda. But that's what you're fighting. That's what you're fighting against social workers. That's what you're fighting against CAFCAS officers. And that's what you're fighting against the family courts. And that there is why you will battle CAFCAS reports that are biased against you, because they can't say good things about you, because they have to say good things about the mum, because it fits the agenda that the government are calling. I've got cases where the children are wanting to live with dad, multiple cases. I've got cases where dads have been physically abused. The children are still with mum. But if it was dad physically abusing the mum, gone. And that there is the reality of the world. But then if you're in family court, you need to find a way of bringing that up delicately, professionally, but without saying anything. And there are methods that I've used and have proven to work continually. But you have to have patience. You have to have patience. You have to have patience. And that means going rogue sometimes. That means getting a slap on the wrist. That means doing things a little bit your way, my way, whatever way you want to call it. But they work. They may not be the conventional methods. And they will be painful methods. Because I do believe that the more pain you go through, the more you grow. And if you're going through stuff and you're not hurting and you're not growing, then you've got issues because you've stagnated and you stood still and you let life get on top of you, and you're one of them fucking pen pushers, receptionists in doctor's surgery or a policeman or not. You're something that you've confined your mind. Your mind has been closed, basically, and you need to open it back up again. But you're not going to. That's why you're going to stay in the world that you're staying in, because the world that you're in is what you see and what you perceive it to be. And I was saying this to someone the other day, like, you can, if we are on a stage and it all is just one big game, and the moon is the CCTV that's watching us all, and the Rothschilds and whatever are the ones pumping the money in and doing this and whatever, and we're like a game of simulations, like on that game that, and we're just like simulations. That's why they want you to take the drugs. That's why they want you to take your antidepressants. You're not depressed. You think you're depressed. You're not depressed. I bet you if you went to a gym or if you had some encouragement, someone, rather than giving you the medication, but someone coming to your house and motivating you and getting you through the tough times, that would fucking be that'd be more beneficial than taking a load of medication and numbing your brain. And I say that because my mum, her brain is pickled. Yeah, partly through whatever she's done drug-wise, illegal drug-wise, partly because of the mental health breakdown, but mainly because of the drugs that she was taking, or does take, the antidepressants that numb her, that stop her from remembering what happened the day before. So that's that. So we've understood that men, after your first case, you're going to be labelled as the abuser, because that's what they go for. The second case, when you go in, you're no longer the abuser. They're the ones abusing you. And if you really look into the detail of things, right, whatever happens, it takes two to argue. Whatever argument they bring up, whatever it is that's getting thrown at you, there's going to be a beginning to it. And amongst all the allegations that you get against you, there'll be one or two true ones or one or two ones that have been slightly exaggerated. And you can be like, yeah, so something like that similar happened. But it wasn't like that. And you need to pull that out and use them and take responsibility for them. And that's, first of all, please remember this. And this is easier said than done. It's not really. It's the easiest part of it all. Take responsibility for it. Yeah, your relationship is your two-way relationship. There will be two people who have argued. No matter what happens, your ex-partner is going to blame you. No matter what happens, whoever's watching this, the ex-partner that's not watching this, they'll be blaming you. You'll both be blaming each other. But rather than blame each other, take responsibility for yourself. The first time forever I stopped and stood still for once in my life, ever, was first lockdown. Because the first lockdown was, we couldn't do anything, did we? We had to go walk out by ourselves. I was in Watford. And I had to just go walking around by myself. So I had to walk around and think about shit. And I thought about my marriage and I thought about what I could have done differently. And there was a bit that I could have done differently, but not to the extremities of some of the cases that I deal with. But you have to stand still and reflect on things and grow and be take criticism, self-criticism. But so for me now, the easiest thing in the world is owning your shit. I call it owning your shit. But that's not easy for other people. A lot of people can't do that. A lot of people will just be like, no, that is the blame. Point the finger of blame. And I think that's where, when you go back to family court multiple times, that's where you've got your absolute win. Because as long as you're complying and you're not being abusive and you're just jumping through the hoops, and again, some people have to do this for a long time. I've done it for a long time. I'm not doing it anymore. But I'm doing it the right way. I'm doing it. I've already told people. I've already told professionals for myself. I'm never going back to family court again for my own personal case. Never. Me and my daughter will go on strike before we go into family court. And I've got a plan if it ever happens to me, because I promised Lila that I would never make an application, so I'm not. And I'm not going back on that word. But if we do end up back in there, and I get, let's say for example, my ex-wife were to want to make an application because that's, it's like a second home to her, then obviously I wouldn't turn up, but I would send a statement in, and I'd be saying what I'd want on the statement. And I explained that to someone the other day, a professional, if that was to ever be the case, and they were a bit shocked at how blasé I was. Some people have been quite surprised with how I've been communicating with professionals for Lila, and taken aback and a gasp for how sort of not rude but direct and forthright I am about stuff. But that's because I don't give a shit anymore. Like, literally, I don't care anymore. It's not about like for me. If I was to ever, it's pointless going to family court ever because my daughter's 14. If anyone made an application now, and that'd have to be obviously be my ex-wife, they would get taken down tenfold because of the age of the child, and no one's listening to the wishes and feelings of the child when they're of an age where they can communicate and tell you what they're feeling and thinking. So the fact that you'd go back to court and ignore what the child would want in the first place would be, in my view, if you've got the right judge, shunned upon, because your argument for that would be huge. I'm seeing some comments coming on here now. Thank you for a brief information. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, it's only brief. I could go on forever, but I tend to, really, because I've got more typing to do and more things to type up. This is my lunch break, sort of. So, just had your first court case. I hope that went well for you. If anyone needs support, I would say contact me, but don't contact me right now, today, because I've got too many people that I need to call back as it is, and I've got so much paperwork to do tonight. Some people, the court will be a fact finding. Yeah, generally that's what happens. So you'll either go into it will be a fact finding or it'll be a Section 7 report. When you go to it's called be fact finding. I'm not sorry. When you go to court, the outcomes when you go to your first cases, right? So when you go into your first ever hearing, if you've got 3 judges, if you've got a justice lay person, one person, they can't make any decisions. So they have to, if you can't agree on anything, you're going to get no order, basically. From there, you'll then go back into court, another hearing, and you'll get put in before either magistrates, which will be 3 of them sat there, and then one in the middle will be the key decision maker. And then if you're more complex than that, then you will ultimately you will then turn into a district judge. What will happen in your first dispute resolution appointment is the judge will try and compromise and find a level of compromise for you both. So there'll be allegations coming one way, there'll be counter allegations coming the other, and the judge will try and find some middle ground between these allegations. If there is no agreement with these allegations between each other, then generally you're going to go to a finding of facts hearing. If you can, and that's going to be an extension to the time that you're going to miss with your children because you can't agree. So then you have to go through the process and the steps of a finding of facts hearing, which is painful because you're going to have lots of multiple hearings, hour-long hearings, and nothing will change. What you should be doing is always going for contact in a contact centre, in my view, at minimum in your first hearing, because if you're not getting contact at a contact centre, it's generally going to be because you've got serious physical allegations against you or you've got sexual allegations against you. Even with the sexual allegations against you, it'd be I've known it to be in the contact centre, even with on a few occasions, very rarely, but on a few occasions, because it's supported contact. So these are professionals that are paid to watch you with your children, making sure that you're parenting properly. So if it's emotional and psychological abuse, then at minimum, very minimum, and in some cases you won't be able to afford the cost the centre because it's between 75 and 100 quid per hour. So you need to. What you do in that instance is you ask a family member to be the support worker, this person that's watching you to oversee shit. If I would if I was given the opportunity in my situation. Lindsay didn't. My ex-wife did not let me have any contact until we'd got to the end of, I think it was the end of the non-mole, and it was only when we got to the child arrangements bit that after that first hearing, I think I got like every other weekend or some. I think it was some bullshit, something measly small, but it could have been worse. It could have been in a contact centre because that's what Lindsay was going for. My ex-wife was going for. She was going for a contact centre, making life as difficult and as lobotomous as possible. It didn't work because the judge could see what she was doing, but they don't always see that. Or, I mean, I behaved badly. I tell everyone, I was an idiot when I first went into family courts. I was a massive idiot. Doing stuff that was getting headlines for Files for Justice, but not doing much for my case at all. And it was when the judge told me that I probably wasn't going to be seeing my daughter if I carried on with what I was doing, that I stopped everything. I had to say goodbye to Matt O'Connor and say, see you, I'm going my way now. And that's why I went with love. And working with the system. And I've been practicing that since then. And it's only been in the last 4 years that I've managed to literally live and see positive in everything that I say, and see positive in everything. Even the shit stuff. Even the shit stuff. What's this? Next, let me find the facts. I can't see. See, you can see the stuff there, but I can't see it. So. Oh, it's Reuben. Oh, there's a. There you go. So that's that. But magical. But look, so let's look here. Think of you. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. So that's life. That's how it goes. You see life how you see it. Remember that just because you think you feel like shit doesn't mean you actually do feel like shit. The voices in your head, the voices in your head that tell you that you feel like shit, or that tell you that you're feeling sad. Who else can hear those voices? No one can. Just you. It's only you telling you that you're sad. It's only you telling you that you're feeling shit. If you told you that you were feeling great, and then done some star jumps and got the blood moving around the body, you'd feel great. You have to what you believe, and I had the saying when I was in shops in retail. What you believe, you will achieve. We had in Lewisham, we had the fucking smashed the crap out of it because every day was a Saturday. I had a saying that every day was a Saturday. I manifested, and I know it's a word that everyone's using right now, but I've been doing that shit for years, man. And I didn't even know it was a thing. I just thought I was lucky, but it's not. It's because what I do, the things I did, behaviours that I implemented, people that I spoke to, people that I interacted with, things that I chose subconsciously that were important or not important. I did those things, and these things happened and got me to where I wanted to go. Equally, when things have gone wrong, it's because I've instigated them to go wrong, because I've done things wrong, because things have transpired, or it's a relationship that's gone wrong, or it's things that have happened to make bad things happen to you. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that I've done something bad. It could be that someone's coming to you and putting shit on your doorstep. But that's going to be your fault as well, because you mix with these people. You know, if someone's, most people that dislike you, most people that will dislike you, or say bad things about you, will have been your friend or will have been in your circle at one stage or another. They would have been saying good things about you at one stage or another. If they're that confident, if they're that nice, if they're human beings. If they've never said anything nice about you, to you, and they don't even know you, and they're going around slagging you off, then they need fucking help. That's my opinion. Kafka's involved, lots of allegations from ex. on bail. Police investigation carried on for more than 3 years. Yeah, 3 months. I'm staying positive and never got. I can't see a name, but because it just says Facebook user on there. But it's not easy, mate. 3 months is not easy at all. So on bail, police investigation. It sounds similar to what I went through. Sounds very similar to what I went through. I was on bail. I had to go through criminal proceedings, and then got found not guilty. And then you have to go and relive the whole thing in I had to go relive the whole thing in family court again afterwards, which done my nut in, because then I got to the end of the non-molestation order and I was like, "Where's my child? Where's Lila?" And it was, "No, you have to put a C100 in." And I'm sure they've been telling me to do that for months beforehand, but because I was me, I just didn't. I didn't realise. I didn't clock it. I was going through so much trauma at the time; it was unbelievable. So I didn't realise what I was supposed to be doing. So I got to the end of the case, then I had to submit the C100. Which is what now, when I'm talking to people, I'm like, any non-mol that goes in, you submit that C100 straight away. Any non-mol goes in, you get that C100 straight in. And there's a reason for that. And if you need to know the answer, then call me. But I think it's quite straightforward as to the reason why. But then there's ways you tackle that as well. Obviously, with your, I would always, if it's emotional and psychological, even if it's exaggerated, you know if it's exaggerated or not. You know what the truth is. Be honest. Take responsibility for your shit. But then at the same point, don't roll over and let it just be a one-sided affair. Because just because they've said that you're an argumentative aggressor doesn't mean that you can't argue your point in court. Again, that's where people this is why I think in family law, unless it's really complex and it's a drop down from criminal court, so a lot of cases you'll find now as well, they're going into criminal court and then they're coming down, they're dropping down into family court because they can't prove beyond reasonable doubt in criminal court. So what they'll do is they'll transfer it over to private law proceedings where you can rely on obviously probability rather than fact, which leaves everything so fucking fucked up in the head. But anyway, I've got typing to do, and I need to do some star jumps because my eyes are feeling heavy. But I'd say that, and I've run out of randoms. Yeah, these ones are not. These ones are okay. These ones are fucking awful. Fucking awful. These ones are alright. Can't beat the real McCoy though. Can't beat the real McCoy. Not the McCoy crisps, but the McCoy green randoms. Anyway, been lovely to see you. Been lovely to meet you. And oh look, there's more stuff saying staying positive, mate. Okay, let me just say this. Yeah, good man. Good submitting that C100. You have to stay positive. Now, I know you. When I was going through the shit my first time round, I was kicking myself, and I was like, "Why me? Why am I going through this shit?" If I had not gone through that shit, I would not be who I am today. All the pain that I went through, all the pain, nothing's ever going to hurt as much as what you're hurting now. Nothing will ever hurt as much. And it changes you. It makes you angry for a little while, even subconsciously. You adapt, you change your life, you change your habits, you change how you live. You change when you have to accept when you're seeing your children, less time you're seeing your children. And you have to make alternative days for Christmas, alternative days for birthdays. You have to. I remember, and I tell everyone to do this. And I saw I saw someone Busby. I think Matt was. I can't remember his name, but he's someone I've been speaking to for a little while, and he's done really well. And he's you can see how he's been bonding with his child all the way through. And when you see videos of him on TikTok, and he's doing the same exactly what I did with Lila, I just say he's beautiful, who's amazing, who's clever. She's like, I am, because you're installing confidence into them. Now, granted, Lila might be a bit too confident, but I don't think she is. I think she's sensible with it. I think she's very sensible with it because she has got a sharp tongue and she chooses not to use it unless she really needs to. And then if you push her that far, then she'll bury you. And that's because she's got her mum who's very, I would say, argumentative and abrupt. And and me, who is argumentative and abrupt as well, and like a good debate, and in the past hadn't always communicated in the right way when I have been at the helms of the abuse from her. So I've reacted inappropriately as a result, which will never happen again to me in any given scenario, because I don't get angry anymore. I don't even get frustrated. Nothing pisses me off. I used to get really upset when I was late. Now I don't even care when I'm late. I arrive exactly when I'm supposed to arrive. Not a minute before, not a second after. When I'm turning up, that's when I'm supposed to be there. And if they think I'm late in their dimension, in their world, then so be it. It's up to them. That's what I do. I live life by my rules. And my rules are only quite simply to try and help and support as many people as possible. And that's what I shall do by stopping talking now, because it's literally been an hour talking to myself. Thank you for watching. Peace and love. Ard's Glove.